What are
without
you
bond.
saying, Dave Mack? What are you saying till we find out what the next step is going to be? The next step is an indictment. That's the next step. The long dead body of this little girl found in D4VD, David Anthony Burke's Tesla, found one day after she would have turned 15. She was just 13 years old in the seventh grade when her family reported her missing. She was with D4VD, and after that, they never said another word. Nothing. Where have they been all this time? Why are we the only ones banging the drum, demanding justice? Brian Fitzgibbons, this is very odd behavior on the parents' part. Never issuing a public plea, never thanking the LAPD for finding their girl, never demanding justice. I'd be laying on the front steps of the courthouse screaming for justice. Nothing. Radio silent. And now an indictment is set to go down, and they're what? What? Where are they?
Yeah, it's incomprehensible, the fact that there hasn't been a large outcry from her family.
Man, I ain't no huge fan of Nancy Grace, but when you're right, man. This is ridiculous, and it has to be one of the more strange stories that come out of hip hop or just music news. But at the same time, maybe it ain't so strange. It's quite common because this ain't nothing but R. Kelly all over again, just to a worse degree. I don't know why people think a 14, 15-year-old could be off with a celebrity and the parents not be in line with it. They the main ones help setting up the play. I mean, of course, the celebrity, the R. Kelly or this David D4VD, whatever he called himself, of course, they the primary people that need to be prosecuted, and I don't even say what should happen to them. But the parents are no better. They, to me, is no way it would happen without the approval of the parents. I mean, if the perpetrator is a sicko, then I mean they gonna do what sickos do. But the only reason they're able to accomplish their mission is because the parents open the door and let them in. Again, I'm never gonna say that anyone should be more accountable than a person that committed the act. But I'm starting to believe that the parents are at least equally as accountable, not more, because the person that's doing it, I mean, like I said, they're a sicko. They can maybe blame it on mental illness. But why is the parent doing it? What is their mental illness? I mean, what's their excuse for allowing their child to be preyed upon? That's a different type of evil right there. Like they say, man, it's a special place reserved in hell for people that do those type of things. And in this clip, I'm gonna play this private investigator, and he was hired by the people that was renting the house out to the D4VD, David. They were renting him this mansion out that she was allegedly killed in. And, you know, they said they wanted to hire somebody just to figure out what exactly was going on. And this man pretty much confirms that the parents were in on it. I mean, once you hear him tell his side of the story, he leaves you with no doubt that not only what a mom and dad, maybe her immediate family was in on it, but even the cousins, even, you know, the people at the school, everybody knew what was going on.
Celeste's family never got in touch with you to like find her before. The only reason why you got involved was because the owners of the house had cops coming through their house investigating stuff, and they just didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, no, I've never been in touch with her family. I've tried. I didn't want to push them hard though, so I haven't really followed up more. But yeah, so the owners were very. It's never had anything to do with value of the house or loss of value or anything. It's had to do with they wanted to understand what happened there because they have kids around that age, and they wanted to know if, on like even a spiritual level, if they could go back in that house. It was really hard for them to fathom, you know, if it happened there, or even in fact, even if it didn't happen there, just the fact that it's tied to it, they have some real decisions to make, and they're from out of the country, you know, and so they don't really understand the laws and everything. So they said, listen, we want to find out what happened. They wanted to know what the truth was, and they wanted to make sure that Celeste, got justice if she needed to get justice. Because remember at that time too, they're telling us there might not be any crime here beyond concealment of a body, which was never true. I don't know why LAPD came out and said that, but they were making it sound like this might have been like an overdose or something, and they made a bad decision. There was nothing like that. It was never anything like that. This was a guy who's a predator. I don't know why it took this long to get where we're at. I'm glad there's finally Pierce justice is coming, and it doesn't seem like there was this real urge. It wasn't like maybe the
sense of urgency.
Yes, yeah, but it was no secret that she was with him. In fact, somebody close to the situation, her family, the school where she was going, wrote his management by email and said, paraphrasing it, there's a rumor that David might be involved in the disappearance of 13-year-old, Celeste Rivas Hernandez. If that's true, please make sure she gets home quickly. And she got home. She arrived the next day, and that email was received by his management company, and they did send it to him.
See, that's what I'm saying right there. None of this makes sense to me. Even law enforcement got to be in on some of this stuff. How can somebody at the school, there's somebody working at a school, contact an adult about a minor being in a relationship with another adult? Here you got 3 adults and 1 minor pretty much negotiating the girl. I don't even know how to put it. Negotiating her life, at least her sex life, and nobody get in trouble except except the celebrity dude. They all need to be. That should be breaking the law right there. If you even have knowledge of a minor being assaulted in any way, you should be responsible for taking that information to the police. So, I mean, it's just a breakdown on everybody's behalf. If you ask me, it's not just, of course, the David dude, the D4, whatever this man is calling himself. He need to take his charge, but it's just too many adults that be a part of these situations that get off too easy.
Proof of that. He was aware of it. So then she rides back home, but then she runs away again. He was grooming her. He's a predator. This is not the only girl he was involved with. It was underage. When Celeste ran away on Valentine's Day, she showed up in the area. Oh, this is the exact same day that they're actually taking possession of the new house that they rented, my client's house.
Yes, sir.
Of course, my client thinks it's Josh Marshall, his manager, but they take possession of it. So on that day, he's got Celeste runs away that day, and she's at the old house, the one where they did that live stream, delete everything, and he's got another minor at the new house, 1.5 miles away, and I've got pictures of that. So that can be.
This is kind of all new about there being like a new minor. If you can reveal, how old was this other minor that David was dealing with?
She was 16 and 17.
She was 16.
This was going on for a while.
To the timeline, so I didn't know this. So it was January 2025 when that last year happened, or 2024?
Well, she'd been gone well over a year when this was going down. I believe that live stream was 2024, January 2024. Then she starts. Then in February, is when and then there's runaways, and then getting into around Valentine's Day, she runs away again, and then. It's a year. It's well over a year that she's gone before we now know that this happened, according to prosecutors, in April of 2025. So she's gone a very long time. And that's been the whole thing, is piecing this together. Where exactly was she? Because we didn't really have evidence that we had evidence that she had been to the house, but not that she was like living at the house. And David would travel a lot for concerts or whatever, and nobody would stay there. So we're like, where was she in all this time? And then we find out that she wasn't truly a runaway. That's the part that's upsetting to me too, is that her family knew where she was.
Of course they knew where she was. It's a lot of adults that knew where she was. You know how they knew where she was? Because they were still receiving payments. That's how they knew where she was. If she would have really been missing, they ass wouldn't have had no cash. They wouldn't have been receiving gifts and favors from or whatever this man could do for them to keep them quiet. That's all it's about. There's no way somebody as sick as him If he is crazy enough to be messing or attracted to somebody 13, 14 years old, he ain't got the mental capacity to carry this out all on his own with no help. He had plenty of assistance. There were plenty of adults that knew exactly what was going on, but they was getting paid. It's always about the money, just like with R. Kelly. R. Kelly could hardly read and write. How he gonna go all across the country, travel all across this world with minors, committing crimes and going against every law on the book known to man, and he can barely read without somebody assisting him? So, like I said, man, they all in on it, and it's probably some law authorities or some law officials that was a part of it too.
And she'd shown up for like her cousin's high school graduation. She showed up at a family event. There's a video out there of her arguing with the next door neighbors in the apartment complex next to her house, all while she's supposedly a missing person. And so it's all very frustrating. There's a lot of things, a lot of failures around her, and I understand she's probably a handful. I get that, but the thing is, she's a kid. That's part of being a parent. She needed direction. She needed like a direction in life, and it's not okay. They knew who he was, and it's just, I don't care how rich he is. I don't care how famous he's becoming. I don't care he's living in a mansion and he can afford to support her. It's not okay. Listen, I agree. The parents need to be held accountable.
I was just about to ask that, because one thing about the parents is, usually they don't always have to say something, you know what I mean? The family has to grieve, but I feel like this is one of those cases where the only statement I know that's out there is that the mother just said that she had a boyfriend named David. That's the only statement from the family that I've ever heard that is verified from them. So my question was going to be do you think the family is as quiet as they are because they knew who David was and they knew who she was going to, and you don't really see too much of an intervention between them?
I mean, yes, I have proof that family members have been to that rental house before. I've been with David and Celeste.
Wait, her family has been to his house?
Family members. Listen, one of the first things I put down in this case was we know that David and Celeste were at Six Flags on a certain date, and we found a Build-A-Bear certificate from the Build-A-Bear place in Six Flags in her cousin's name at the house. So it's wait a minute. So she wasn't really missing. You want to know, in my opinion, what the missing persons report was about? It was to cover their ass so CPS didn't come in and say, hey, she's not going to school. What's up? If she's a missing person, you say she's not going to the school because she's a missing person. Then you don't have CPS in your life at that moment. And I sympathize. I know that I know that they're grieving. I know they lost a daughter, but goddamn, you could. She shouldn't have been allowed to be. She was gone a year and a half, man. A year and a half. Somebody should have said, maybe we shouldn't be letting Celeste live her own life like this. I don't care how much money he has, how famous he is. Maybe in some cultures they don't think that's that huge of an age gap. I don't care. That these are the laws that you've agreed to live under, and she's 14, she was not 15 like it says on her death certificate. She turned 15 the day before she was found in the Tesla. She'd been in that Tesla a long time. She was 13 and 14 years old when this was happening.
Man, that's a sad story, man. That girl family pretty much just threw her life away. I don't think there was one person in her life that actually cared about her, because it's just no way it would have happened like that. Even with the girl, I think maybe her parents are suffering from mental illness, because for somebody's mother, especially a young girl, to say her daughter got a boyfriend, just to even be aware that your daughter has a boyfriend and to be okay with it, and she ain't but 13, 14 years old, to me, that's already enough to lock her ass up. I'm just going to be real. This girl don't have no business having no boyfriend at that age. And then the whole family benefiting off of it. Then not only the mama, but the cousins going to Six Flags and getting gifts. That means not only is the mama sick, but the aunties and uncles. How crazy, how wicked can you be, man? How many demons can be in one family? Not only do you know one person, one of the children in the family is being taken advantage of, but you gonna send your children along with them to be taken advantage of, all for a chance to play at Six Flags. That's sick. I ain't heard nothing that crazy in a long time. And the reason that I'm not so quick to even give them the excuse of being mentally insane or having a mental illness is because they had sense enough to try to hide it from the CPS. See, they still reported the girl as missing because they ain't want the law getting in their business. So you smart enough to evade the law, but you wicked enough to sacrifice a little child, man. I say, man, maybe I should take it back. They maybe should be punished even more harshly than David. Because this man, what care should he have? What allegiance should he have to the child? He just a predator. He don't care who he get. But for the family to serve her up right to the predator, this whole situation is just sad, man. And I just hope they can find out a way to properly punish the people who should be punished. They need to come up with some type of law. They need to put something on the books to punish some of these people who aid the predators, because they the real key to the whole puzzle. The predator, they can't do nothing without people helping them. So if you start punishing the family members and the cousins and the agents and the managers, all these little side people who get paid off of it and don't necessarily have to suffer the consequences, then you will really stop this problem.